Lafayette versus Lake Charles, two of Louisiana's most talked about cities, but which one is actually the best place to live in 2025? Well, today I'm going to be breaking down the real differences between these two cities, from the housing prices to the job opportunities to lifestyle, the weather risks, and even local opinions. Whether you think about relocating, investing, or just curious which city really has the edge, this video gives you everything you need to decide. Let's kick it off with one of the biggest factors people care about, and that is housing. Because while both are affordable by national standards, the value you get really isn't the same. So let's look at our first point, which is going to be the housing and the affordability. What's the median home price in Lafayette compared to Lake Charles? Well, in Lafayette, the median home price is about $235,000. On average, you have a two-bedroom home that is about $1,100 a month to about $1,200 a month. And of course, that depends on the condition of the property or the location it is within town. Obviously, those prices can go up. And then Lafayette also really has a more diverse housing stock with historic homes. And we also have older neighborhoods which really have a lot of character, maybe these beautiful oak trees. And then Lafayette really has more on the luxury housing side when you have areas such as River Ranch and some of also even the suburbs when you get to Youngsville. Now, Lake Charles median home price we know is right around the $220,000 range. And then in Lake Charles, your average rent for a two-bedroom is somewhere around $1,050 per month. We know that's not a massive difference, but again, you can see the comparison. Now, Lake Charles is still recovering from Hurricane Laura that really slammed into the city back in 2021 with new construction replacing a lot of these damaged homes or hurricane-recovered homes that have been fixed back up and repaired and things replaced. Now, the insurance costs in Lake Charles typically cost about 15 to 20% higher due to the hurricane risk that they have because they don't have quite as much land cushion as Lafayette does. Now, the property taxes are slightly lower in Lake Charles, which is actually really nice benefit. Lake Charles has seen more on the new construction side in the most recent years due to a lot of the rebuilding efforts and then also just the city's natural growth that they're also having. When we compare the housing costs between Lafayette and Lake Charles, you'll really find that both cities offer a super relatively affordable option compared to really what the national average is. But there are some key differences that are truly worth noting. Now, the price difference might seem small, but it reflects some important market dynamics. Lafayette has a more established and diverse housing stock with everything from historic Acadian cottages in neighborhoods like Freetown to luxury estates in River Ranch where homes can exceed really over $1 million. The newest listing that just hit in River Ranch is over $4 million. The Lake Charles, on the other hand, has been through a significant transformation following Hurricane Laura in 2020. Much of the housing stock has been rebuilt or renovated, which means you'll find more newer homes, but less architectural diversity. Now, the rebuilding was created opportunities for buyers looking for new construction, but it's also, of course, created challenges with the insurance costs. Speaking of insurance, there's a major consideration when comparing these two markets. I've had some clients really shocked by the insurance quotes in Lake Charles that have nearly doubling what they're paying in other parts of the state. The rental market in both cities really stays competitive with vacancy rates under 5% in most of the neighborhoods. So if you're really looking for more of a luxury or high-end housing, well, Lafayette definitely is going to have the edge over the established upscale communities like River Ranch. You have places like La Triumph offering all of these amenities, right? Like golf courses, you have the community pools, you have walking trails. So Lake Charles has some luxury options, particularly around the lake, but they're obviously in the more limited number. Now, who you work for? Well, budget-conscious buyers will appreciate Lake Charles' slightly lower entry point, while those seeking architectural character or established luxury communities will probably prefer Lafayette. Investors also might find better opportunities in Lake Charles' growing neighborhoods, while those seeking stability might prefer Lafayette's more established market. Now that we looked at the housing costs, let's talk about how you'll be paying for that house by examining the job markets in both cities and seeing which one offers the better career opportunities. So let's look at number two, which is, of course, the job market and economy. What industries really are what's dominating the economy? Well, when it comes to making a living, both Lafayette and Lake Charles offer distinct economic landscapes that could make or break your decision to relocate. Now, Lafayette has historically been known as the hub of Louisiana's really oil and gas industry, earning its nickname of the energy capital of Louisiana. While this sector still provides many high-paying jobs, Lafayette has really worked hard to diversify its economy in the recent years. The healthcare sector has grown substantially with Lafayette General General Health System, now, turned into Ochsner General, while they're employing thousands. The University of Louisiana of Lafayette creates a stable base of education jobs and brings really some steady stream of talent to the area. What's particularly exciting about Lafayette right now is that it has this emerging tech scene. Companies like GCI, Proficient, and Hamper have established significant operations here while creating hundreds of technology jobs and startups. The Louisiana Immersive Technology Enterprise, the LIGHT Center is what we like to call it, and UL's Lafayette computing programs are fostering innovation that's attracting younger professionals to the area. Now, Lake Charles, by comparison, has an economy dominated by the petrochemical industry and gaming. The city really has seen massive industrial investments totaling over $50 billion in the recent years, with companies like Cheniere Energy, Sasol, and Cameron LNG building or expanding facilities. Now, these projects created thousands of construction jobs and now provide steady employment with some of the highest blue-collar wages in the state. The casino industry is also another major employer in Lake Charles, with L'Auberge and the Golden Nugget providing thousands of hospitality and gaming jobs. Now, McNeese State University, while smaller than UL, it still contributes significantly to the education sector. And then looking at the numbers, really, Lake Charles is currently a slightly lower unemployment rate at 3.8% compared to Lafayette's 4.2%. Now, average household incomes are comparable, with Lafayette at about $53,000 and Lake Charles at $52,000. However, Lake Charles has seen more wage growth in the recent years due to its industrial expansion. Now, the key difference in the economic diversity and stability, well, Lafayette's more diversified economy provides some insulation from the boom and the bust cycles of the energy industry. Now, Lake Charles, while currently enjoying some strong industrial growth, remains more vulnerable to the downturns in its core sectors. I've seen at firsthand with clients who moved to Lake Charles for construction jobs during the industrial boom only to really struggle when projects were finding its completion. Now, who these work for? Well, those in the petrochemical, the industrial construction, or the casino and hospitality industries will find abundant opportunities in Lake Charles. Professionals in healthcare, education, technology, or those seeking a more diverse job market will likely fare better in Lafayette. Oil and gas professionals can find opportunities in both cities, though Lafayette has traditionally been really its sector hub. Beyond just making a living, you really want to enjoy your life in your new city. So let's look at how the vibe and lifestyle differ between those two Louisiana communities. So let's talk about point number 3, vibe and lifestyle. When we talk about the vibe and the lifestyle of these two cities, we're really discussing their souls, what makes them tick, and how it feels to actually live there day by day. Now, Lafayette proudly wears its identity as the heart of Acadiana and the cultural capital of Cajun country. This isn't just some marketing ploy, it's evident in every aspect of daily life. The French language influence remains strong. Even though it really is somewhat of a dying language, the French language does have quite a few in its older residents that do speak the Cajun French, the older generations. You'll hear the term "ça c'est bon," which means good, especially if you're referring to maybe a meal and casual conversation. There's Zydeco music that's pouring from local venues on the weekend nights. The cultural calendar in Lafayette is packed year-round, anchored by Festival International, which happens every April or May, and it brings over 300,000 visitors to downtown for 5 days of music. We have art, food, French-speaking countries from all over the world. Then there's a Festival Acadien et Creole in October, celebrating Cajun music and the culture. Downtown Alive, concert series, and countless other smaller cultural events throughout the year. So Lafayette's food scene is truly legendary. We had beautiful restaurants such as Café Vermilionville, which we were so sad to hear it went out of business. We are praying that someone will open it back up, but those places live on in some other restaurants in the area, or John's Boucannerie, alongside family-owned plate lunch spots, serving some of the best gumbo and étouffée you'll ever taste. The city truly takes its food seriously, and arguments about who makes the best boudin can last for obviously generations. Now, Lake Charles, while distinctly Louisiana, it does have somewhat of a different cultural makeup. Being closer to the Texas border, you'll notice that Texas influence is everything from the architecture to the accent, and the city embraces its role as a gateway to Louisiana, offering really residents a blend of Cajun culture mixed with some more mainstream amenities. Lake Charles is famous for its Mardi Gras celebration, the second largest in Louisiana after New Orleans, with family-friendly parades and unique traditions. The Chicken Run is nearby in Iowa, Louisiana. The city also hosts some Louisiana Pirate Festival, formerly the Contraband Days, where they were celebrating its history of piracy and smuggling in the region. Now, the pace of this is a little different noticeably between the cities. Lafayette Lafayette moves at what locals call Cajun time, slightly slower, more relaxed, with an emphasis on really enjoying life's pleasures, whereas Lake Charles, particularly with its recent industrial growth, has a somewhat faster tempo, though it's still far from the hustle and bustle of the larger cities. Downtown Lafayette has undergone a remarkable revitalization over the past decade, with historic buildings now housing trendy restaurants, bars, and shops. And on any evening, you'll even find people strolling between the venues, enjoying outdoor seating and creating a vibrant street life. Lake Charles downtown, while it's improving, it hasn't yet really achieved the same level of revitalization, with entertainment more concentrated really in the casino district really along the lake. Now, who this works for? Well, those seeking authentic Cajun culture, that vibrant art scene, and a walkable downtown with historic character will feel at home, of course, in Lafayette. People who prefer a more mainstream southern lifestyle with easy access to recreation and a casino entertainment might prefer Lake Charles. Families also appreciate the Lake Charles newer suburban developments, while young professionals and cultural enthusiasts typically gravitate toward Lafayette. For families considering either city, one of the most important factors is education. So let's compare the school systems and educational opportunities in Lafayette and Lake Charles. So point number 4, talking about school and also education. So education is often the deciding factor of families choosing between cities, and Lafayette and Lake Charles present different educational landscapes worth examining closely. In the public school arena, Lafayette Parish School System serves about 30,000 students across 41 schools, while Calcasieu Parish System in the Lake Charles is slightly larger with 62 schools serving roughly around 32,000. Both districts have seen improvement in recent years, but there are noticeable differences in the structure and also in the performance. Lafayette Public Schools show more variation in performance, with some of the state's highest performing schools in South Lafayette areas like Youngsville and Broussard, while schools in North Lafayette typically score lower on state assessments. This has really created a situation where school zone boundaries significantly impact home values and family moving decisions. Schools like the Early College Age Academy, which allows students to earn an associate degree while completing high school, and the David Thibodeau STEM Magnet Academy offer specialized programs that attract academically motivated students. Lake Charles Calcasieu Parish schools tend to have a more consistent performance across the district. While quite the same dramatic differences between neighborhoods, the district has invested heavily in technology and career-focused education in recent years, with strong vocational programs at schools like Lake Charles Boston Academy. For private education, Lafayette offers more options with 23 private schools compared to Lake Charles' 15. Lafayette's Catholic school system is particularly strong, with a school like St. Thomas More and Turlings Catholic consistently sending students to prestigious universities. Episcopal School of Acadiana, while technically outside of city limits, draws many Lafayette families seeking a top-tier college preparatory education. Lake Charles Private Schools landscape is anchored by St. Louis Catholic High School and Immaculate Compensation Cathedral School, both well-regarded institutions with long histories in the community. Higher education is where the differences really become apparent. The University of Lafayette is a major research university where nearly 19,000 students offer doctoral programs and nationally recognized departments in computer science, engineering, and nursing. The university brings significant cultural and economic benefits to Lafayette, from Division I athletics to research partnerships with local industry. Now, McNeese State University in Lake Charles, while smaller, with about 7,500 students, it really offers strong programs in engineering, nursing, and business. It's a more intimate campus, which provides a different college experience with strong connections to the local petrochemical industry. Both cities offer excellent South Louisiana Community College in Lafayette and SOWELA, the Technical Community College in Lake Charles, offering career training and transfer pathways to 4-year institutions. Who this works for? Families seeking specialized academic programs and more private school options might prefer Lafayette, while those for consistent public school quality across neighborhoods might find Lake Charles appealing. Students really seeking that larger university experience with more diverse program offerings would likely choose Lafayette, while those preferring a smaller college environment with a strong industry connections might lean more towards Lake Charles. Now that we covered where you might like to live and work and send your kids to school, let's talk about how you'll you'll get around in each city by comparing the traffic and commute times? Well, number 5 goes to traffic and commute. When it comes to daily commutes and getting around, there are some significant differences between Lafayette and Lake Charles that might impact your quality of life. Let's start with the numbers. The average commute in Lafayette is about 22 minutes, while Lake Charles residents enjoy a slightly shorter average of about 19 minutes. The 3-minute difference might not sound like much, but over a year, that's an extra 24 hours of your life spent in the car in Lafayette. Now, Lafayette has earned the dubious honor of ranking 37 among the most congested small cities in America. The main culprits are Johnson Street and, of course, Ambassador Caffrey Parkway, which have become parking lots during rush hour. If you work in the oil center or near the university and live in South Lafayette, you might find yourself spending anywhere from about 25 to 35 minutes in traffic during peak hours, and that's despite just traveling maybe a few miles across the city. Lake Charles has overall less congestion, but it faces its own unique challenges. The industrial corridors have become heavily congested during shift changes at the plants, and the I-10 bridge situation has been a long-standing issue. The aging bridge frequently causing bottlenecks and concern about long-term viability have persisted for years. Public transportation is limited in both cities, with neither offering comprehensive systems that can fully replace you having your own car. Both cities have basic bus routes, but the service is infrequent and doesn't really cover all the areas. Now, this is definitely not Chicago. It's definitely not New York. You'll certainly need a car in either location. While Lafayette pulls ahead in walkability and bikeability, downtown Lafayette and River Ranch are really the only areas that offer any genuinely walkable districts where you can live, you can work, and play without constantly getting in your car. The city has invested in bike lanes and trails, which are really providing more scenic routes through different parts of the city. The UL Lafayette campus also is a very reasonably bike-friendly area. Lake Charles has also made improvements in its downtown walkability, particularly along the lakefront, but most residents in the area still require driving to reach any of these amenities. The city has fewer bike lanes, though the lakefront does offer some pleasant recreational bike activities. The road quality is a common complaint in both cities, with Lafayette's climate taking a toll on the pavement. However, Lafayette has been more aggressive with the road improvements in the past few years, though the construction itself is only going to be a temporary traffic headache. Now, for future planning, Lafayette has a more comprehensive transportation master plan that includes continued expansion of bike infrastructure and potential transit improvements. Lake Charles is focused primarily on its I-10 bridge replacement, which eventually will improve regional connectivity, but remains years away from being completed. Now, who wins on the transportation? If you value a slightly shorter commute and you don't mind being car dependent, Lake Charles might edge out on Lafayette. But if you're interested in occasionally walking or biking to destinations and having some access to more walkable districts, well, Lafayette has more options despite it being slightly worse with the traffic congestion. Of course, once you've settled into your home and you figured out your commute, you'll want to know what there is to do in your free time. So let's compare the amenities and entertainment options in Lafayette and in Lake Charles. So that moves us to number 6, the amenities and the things that you can do. So when it comes to the entertainment and things to do, Lafayette and Lake Charles offer completely different experiences that reflect their distinct personalities. Lafayette has earned its national recognition for its food scene, while multiple James Bernard nominated chefs and restaurants that showcase the best of Cajun and Creole cuisine. Places like Préjean's and John's Boucanerie have put Lafayette really on the culinary map. The city hosts numerous food-focused events throughout the year, from the gumbo cook-offs that we have, gumbo competitions, boudin cook-offs, celebrating the region's culinary-rich history. Lake Charles does take a bit of a different approach in its entertainment, with its two major sectors really being the casino like Le Berge and the Golden Nugget, serving really the entertainment hubs. Now, these venues offer gaming, of course, but also they host concerts, comedy shows, and provide upscale dining options. The casino resort pools and the lazy rivers have become a really popular recreation spot for both tourists and also locals during the summer months. For outdoor enthusiasts, the cities offer really contrasting experiences. Lafayette has city parks like Girard, the Acadiana Nature Station, hiking trails, Moncus Park, and Lake Martin nearby for wildlife viewing, whereas Lake Charles, meanwhile, has direct access to the Gulf of Mexico via the Calcasieu Ship Channel, while it make it a paradise for fishing enthusiasts. The Creole Nature Trail, known as the America's Outback, offers unparalleled wildlife viewing with alligators, hundreds of bird species, and pristine marshlands. Now, cultural attractions abound in Lafayette, with the Acadia Center for the Arts hosting gallery exhibits and performances performances. Vermilionville Living History Museum provides an immersive experience at the early Acadian, Native American, and Creole lifestyle. The Lafayette Science Museum and the Children's Museum offer educational entertainment for families. Lake Charles counters with attractions like the historic Imperial Calcasieu Museum, the Mardi Gras Museum, the largest in the world, and the Lake Charles Symphony. The city's lakefront promenade promises a scenic gathering place, and the annual Chenault International Air Show draws aviation enthusiasts from all across the region. Festival culture is strong in both cities, but with their own different flavor. Shopping options differ significantly. Lafayette has the more diverse retail landscape with River Ranch Lifestyle Center and the traditional Mall of Acadiana and numerous boutiques throughout downtown and the Oil Center. Lake Charles has Prion Lake Mall and a growing number of shopping centers, but offers very few local boutiques and specialty stores. Nightlife in Lafayette centers around downtown, with Jefferson Street offering a strip of really bars, live music venues, and a restaurant that stays open late. Where Lake Charles nightlife is more concentrated in the casinos, the bars, the lounges, and the occasional live entertainment. Now, who wins in amenities? Well, Lafayette is the clear choice for foodies, cultural enthusiasts, and those who enjoy a more locally driven entertainment scene, whereas Lake Charles has an edge for gamblers, outdoor sportsmen, especially fishermen and hunters, and those who enjoy resort-style amenities. Now, while entertainment options are important, safety concerns and weather changes can significantly impact your quality of life. Let's examine how Lafayette and Lake Charles compare when it comes to those crucial factors. So let's look at number 7, the weather and the safety. When comparing Lafayette and Lake Charles, weather risks and safety concerns show some of the starkest differences between the two cities. Let's start with the elephant in the room, the hurricane risk. Lake Charles sits closer to the Gulf Coast, and it has a history of direct hurricane impacts that have shaped the city's development and the community's resilience. In 2020, the city was devastated by hurricanes Laura and Delta, hitting just 6 weeks apart, causing billions in damage and displacing thousands of residents. With neighborhoods still recovering from these back-to-back disasters, the city's location really has made it vulnerable to storm surge, which can push water inland and cause catastrophic flooding. Now, Lafayette is sitting about 35 miles further inland, is better protected from the worst hurricane impacts. While the city certainly experiences hurricane conditions, the storms typically weaken before reaching Lafayette. Storm surge is not a significant concern, though rainfall and flooding can still occur. During Hurricane Laura, for example, Lafayette experienced tropical storm conditions, while Lake Charles faced the full force of a Category 4 hurricane. This difference in weather risk is reflected in insurance rates, however. In Lake Charles, they'll pay significantly more for property insurance due to the elevated hurricane risk. Some Lake Charles residents have even reported difficulty obtaining insurance after the 2020 hurricane, while this is rarely an issue in Lafayette. When it comes to crime, the cities are more comparable. Though statistics slightly favor Lake Charles, the violent crime rate in Lake Charles is about 6.8 per 1,000 residents compared to Lafayette's 7.1. Property crime shows a very similar pattern, with Lake Charles at 33.5 per 1,000 residents versus the Lafayette's 37.2. However, both cities have neighborhoods with higher and lower crime rates, so location within the city, of course, matters significantly. In Lafayette, the general perception is that the north side comes with higher crime rates than the south side, with areas like downtown, River Ranch, and Youngsville considered among the safest. In Lake Charles, North Lake Charles has more crime concerns, while areas like South Lake Charles and Moss Bluff are generally considered safer. Both cities experience significant rainfall, with Lafayette averaging about 62 inches annually compared to Lake Charles' 58 inches. This creates flood risk in both locations, though the flood-prone areas differ. In Lafayette, parts of the northwest and areas along the Vermilion River face the highest flood risk. Lake Charles has flood-prone areas, particularly in its northern section along the waterways. Now, emergency services in both cities are well established, though Lake Charles has particularly developed robust disaster response capabilities due to its hurricane history and the presence of industrial facilities that require specialized emergency planning. So who wins the weather and safety? If minimizing natural disaster risk is a priority for you, well, Lafayette has a clear advantage with its reduced hurricane exposure and lower insurance costs. For crime concerns, the cities are comparable enough that neighborhood selection within either city will matter when you're choosing between both of these. Looking toward the future, understanding how the city is developing and growing can help you to make a more forward-thinking decision about where to put down your roots. So let's examine the growth patterns and the development trajectories of Lafayette and Lake Charles. So let's look at number 8, the growth and development. Now, the growth trajectories of Lafayette and Lake Charles tell two different stories about their futures. Understanding these patterns could significantly impact your long-term satisfaction if you're planning to put down roots in either city. Now, Lafayette is growing at a modest but steady rate of about 0.08% annually, with most its new development concentrated in the southern and western parts of the city. Areas like Youngsville and Broussard each technically are their own municipalities but function as part of the greater Lafayette area, which has seen explosive growth with these new subdivisions, shopping centers, and schools being built to really accommodate for all the influx of these residents and families. The Lake Charles has experienced more volatile population changes with a growth rate of about 0.5% annually, though this figure was significantly impacted by population displacement after the 2020 hurricanes. Some neighborhoods lost substantial population, while others have seen rapid rebuilding and renewal. The economic development picture in Lake Charles is dominated by massive industrial expansion. Over $50 billion in industrial projects have been announced or are underway in the region, primarily in the petrochemical sector. These projects really promise thousands of construction jobs in the short term and the hundreds of permanent positions once they're completed. Now, this industrial growth has created a construction boom that extends beyond the industrial insights to include housing, hotels, the retail to be serving and growing the workforce. Now, Lafayette's development has really been more diversified. The city has focused on building its technology sector with the development of the Opportunity Machine, Business Incubator, and of course the expansion of CGI's Technology Center. Downtown Lafayette has experienced a renaissance. Really, historic buildings are being converted to mixed-use developments or featuring apartments above restaurants and retail. The university area is also seeing significant investments with new student housing and commercial developments catering to the academic community. Property values is what tells an interesting story. In Lafayette, home values have increased by 15% over the past 5 years, with steady appreciation across most of the neighborhoods. Now, Lake Charles has seen approximately 12% growth over the same period of time, but with much more volatility. Values dropped sharply after the hurricanes, but have rebounded strongly in areas where rebuilding has been truly successful. Infrastructure development differs significantly between the two cities. Lafayette is focusing really on quality of life improvements with projects like the expansion of the Anticopa-Issaquah Trail System, probably butchered that, a new performing arts center, and a also continued development of parks and recreational facilities. Now, Lake Charles infrastructure priorities are more focused on recovery and resilience, with major developments and investments in the drainage improvement, more robust utility systems, and the long-awaited replacement of the aging I-10 bridge. Now, affordable housing remains a challenge in both cities for different reasons. In Lafayette, the issues stem from increasing demand into desirable areas, pushing prices beyond what working families can afford. Lake Charles faces a more acute housing crisis due to the loss of its housing stock from the hurricane damage, with many lower-income residents still struggling to find suitable housing options. Who wins on the growth and development? Well, if you value steady, diversified growth with an emphasis on the quality of life improvements, well, Lafayette you may find more appealing. If you're excited for the economic opportunities presented by the major industrial expansions, then you might not mind the growing pains that they have along the way. Lake Charles really offers a tremendous potential for those in the right industries. But at the end of the day, statistics and projections can only tell you so much. Sometimes the most valuable insights come from people who actually live in these cities. So let's hear what the locals have to say about living in Lafayette and Lake Charles. Number 9 is local opinions. When you're considering a move to a new city, sometimes the most valuable insights come from the people who already call this place home. So having spoken with hundreds of residents in both Lafayette and Lake Charles over my years in real estate, I've gathered some fascinating perspectives on what locals truly think about their cities. Lafayette residents consistently express an unusually high level of community pride. In fact, a 2014 study by Harvard University and the CDC actually named Lafayette the happiest city in America, and locals will proudly remind you of this distinction. When you ask Lafayette residents what they love the most about their city, the answer almost always is the food, the festivals, and the people. There's a strong sense of culture here that is so special, and it's worth preserving. As one lifelong Lafayette resident once told me, where else can you go to get free world-class music festival on Friday, have the best plate of crawfish you've ever tasted on Saturday, and then enjoy a family gathering with 3 generations or dancing to Zydeco on Sunday? This place truly has a soul. Now, Lake Charles residents, meanwhile, often speak about their community's resilience. After weathering multiple devastating hurricanes, there's a palpable sense of pride in how the community community comes together in difficult times. Locals frequently mention the outdoor recreation activities and opportunities are a major plus with easy access to fishing, hunting, and water activities. Lake Charles residents who've lived there for over 20 years have shared we're smaller than Lafayette and maybe we don't have as many fancy restaurants, but there's something special about being able to go from work to having your boat in the water in 15 minutes. And when times get tough, like after Laura, we really see the heart of this community. Now, common complaints differ between the cities as well. Lafayette residents frequently mention the traffic congestion, particularly at major arteries like Ambassador Caffrey and Johnson Street. There's frustration about the drainage issues during heavy rains and concerns about the need for economic diversification beyond just oil and gas. In Lake Charles, the most common complaints center around the industrial presence. Some residents mentioned the air quality concerns and the visual impact of the plants. Hurricane risk and the rising costs are really major topics of conversation, especially after the 2020 storms. There are also a sense that the city needs more diverse entertainment options besides just the casinos. Interestingly, though, people who have lived in both cities often describe them as having distinct personalities. Lafayette is characterized as the artistic, the food-loving cousin with a strong sense of tradition, with a bit more of a rebellious streak. Lake Charles is portrayed as the hardworking, outdoorsy relative who knows how to have a good time, but also rolls up their sleeves when there's work to be done. A common misconception outsiders have about Lafayette is that it's just a smaller, less interesting version of New Orleans. Locals are quick to point out, though, that Lafayette has its own distinct culture and traditions that differ significantly from New Orleans. For Lake Charles, outsiders often assume that it's just an industrial town with little to offer culturally, missing really that Cajun influence because of Texas and the natural beauty that residents cherish. Who really wins the local opinion? This one is truly subjective. If you really value a cultural identity, creative energy, or a community that celebrates its uniqueness, Lafayette residents seem more universally enthusiastic about their city's special qualities. Now, if you appreciate resilience, outdoor recreation, and a slightly smaller community where you can feel quickly connected, well, Lake Charles residents speak passionately about these aspects of their hometown. Now, if you're still deciding between Lafayette or Lake Charles, if you've got some questions about the neighborhoods, the schools, or what it's really like to live in either city, well, feel free to reach out. My info's in the description below or the number right here on screen. I've helped dozens of families find their perfect places to fit in both, and I would love to help you as well. If this video helped you narrow things down, wait till you see the next one, the 13 reasons why you shouldn't move to Lafayette in 2025. It's not just clickbait. We're diving into the real challenges that could impact your decision. Check the video on the screen now and get the full picture before you make your move.